Okay, Mr. Sean Newman, welcome to the Little Book of Proptech, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. You've been in the newspapers recently as yesterday, and I think that's where we're going to start our story with you, because I think it's fair to say that sometimes when politicians or famous people in general put themselves out there, there's that notion that because they put themselves out there, they're fair game in terms of what the public have to say about them and how they are offering themselves up almost to the public to either criticize or love. And sometimes that happens in equal measure if you're lucky. And sometimes it happens one way or the other. The property industry eye is well known for being one of those spaces that can be rather unfriendly sometimes. And let's put it this way, the usual suspects with their anonymous monikers, they hide behind that, but they've got a lot to say. Are you one of those people that reads the comments? Do you ignore them? Do you take the view? I mean, you and I discussed that briefly yesterday, and you said you were going to go and take a peek at it, but you really hadn't taken time. In general, though, how do you roll with that?
Do you know, I just had a quick look, and there's a question you were going to mention, and so literally I was laughing, and it's entertaining, and that's where you got to look at it. I think whatever you do in this world, lots of good people do a lot of good things, and they will get criticised because people either don't know the full story or look at a negative or find a bad angle. I'm a big believer that you will find in life, this is whatever you look for. So if you look for the good in people, you'll find it. If you look for the bad in people, you'll find it. And if you can't find it, you'll make it up, or you'll come up with your own thoughts. So I did laugh at some of the comments, a little bit negative. So it was about we had an incentive trip to Dubai for our agents.
Yeah.
So I've just announced the incentive. Well, we announced it to our agents on the 1st of January. Coincidentally, when the press got hold of it, they've just announced or the government have announced there's no trips to Dubai, it's all closed. This incentive scheme, just to put a perspective, is beginning the 1st of December 2021, and the trip will probably be in March or April 2022. We're not going this week, and obviously we wouldn't be breaking COVID rules. And people
it's a shame because I had my bags all packed, Sean. I'm ready to go.
Well, you could come with us, but it's funny how people jump on a bandwagon and say people are dying, you shouldn't be going on holidays, and the reality is, as soon as we're allowed to go places, we should definitely support the travel industry because they've been hit more than anyone else. So, and offering an incentive to your team, whatever industry you're in, bonuses, incentives, competitions, I think it's all good. So, the comments did make me laugh, and I haven't actually made a reply. But in answer to your question, I think whenever you put something out there on social media, there's always going to be the trolls, there's always going to be the haters, and I think you just have to accept that's what some people are like. Ignore it, laugh at it, and it's just got to be water off a duck's back. Because if you start taking offence or respecting other people's criticisms, then it can have a negative influence on you. So I'm very positive. I always look at the good things, and I just laugh at it and laugh it off really. And obviously I don't want to do anything that's going to upset anybody or offend anybody. But I don't do that. So I've got nothing really. If you're a good person and you do good things, you've really got nothing to worry about. So I take it.
Is there a part of you though that when you're posting, and let's say you're posting something like, I'll give you for instance, when you did your body shots, those fabulous where you were sort of all oiled up. I mean, there isn't enough oil to cover my ample body, let me tell you. I've thought about mimicking it, but I just can't. I can't match it. But when you're posting something like that, there's one side of it is that yes, you're showing people that you've had a physical transformation, which obviously has a lot of work involved, and you've achieved a goal, and you're very proud of that, and you are relaying that to people that might be interested, that may be following you. But there's got to be the more cynical amongst us would say, look, that's Sean just grandstanding again. He's showing off that he's got this fantastic body. He's got the time to exercise. He's got the money to get a professional photographer. Of course, he looks fantastic. He's just spent 3 weeks in Dubai. I'm an extremely cynical person, and I have fallen into that trap before. And our industry is known for our, how should we put it? It's cynicism, and sometimes we get a little bit bitter. And I suppose one of the things about our country and our environment sometimes is that we don't celebrate success necessarily. We look at it, we like to sneer at it, and we don't see the hard working that goes into it. But there must be a part of you that knows when you're posting it, oh God, I'm going to get ripped for this.
Yeah, to be honest, I was, the reasons for doing it were because I just wanted to inspire others, help others, encourage others. And for me, it's all about being a good role model, setting a good example, setting standards for myself and people around me, whether it's my kids or colleagues or friends, just showing what is possible. And I think in life, people have inspired me. I've seen people who've done those transformations, and it gave me the motivation, if you like, and belief that it's possible. And I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And so I guess I wanted just to give that to other people. Yes, I'm sure there's people who just said, oh, he's just showing off, that's everyone's entitled to their view, and I don't mind what they think, but I know why I did it for myself. And if I can inspire or help or encourage other people, and I've done a few short videos just letting people know what I did, because it is hard, and people think, well, where do you start? What do you do? A lot of people, especially this time of year, think, I want to lose a bit of weight, or I want to do something different, improve my life in one area of my life. So it really is just to help other people, and that's part of my life is what I do. So people take care of everyone.
and Sean, I have to tell you, last night you were the cause of an argument here. No, let me say, it was a lively domestic debate that we had. You put me on to a show called, I think, The Secret Billionaire, which I started to watch last night, and my wife was sat next to me, and I think it's fair to say she's a fiercely intelligent lady with her own points of view. And I could just see her simmering away there as we're watching this thing. And the premise of the show, for anybody that doesn't know, is that a billionaire basically reduces himself to having only $100 in his wallet and a 90-day bet with himself over, I think it was $1 million that he's put up for it. But the 90-day bet was that he could turn that $100 into $1 million. By the end of that period, and I could hear her just simmering away, and eventually she broke and she said, listen, you cannot, I hate these kind of shows. I said, why do you hate it? And she said, well, the premise is that if you work hard and you've got a goal, you can work your way up to any level. And people who are in poverty, they're in poverty for many different reasons, and it's not because they don't work hard enough. And she says, and I just refuse to, she doesn't like to play into that way of thinking. But there is a certain element of mindset that goes into making money and being successful and keeping on track. And I suppose in our industry, there's a fair few of us that struggle with the day-to-day of running our businesses. We get very much entrenched with the nitty-gritty of being on the front line, of dealing with staff, with dealing with competitors, customers, wherever that may be. And sometimes we fail to take that step back and work on the business or on our wider goals. But you and I think it's fair to say we met, if it's okay for me to say this, we met sort of 5 or 6 years ago. Your business and your head was in a very different place when we met. From what I remember, you had sort of you'd been away for a while. I think you'd come back and you'd started to roll your sleeves up and said, I'm going to get a grip of this and sort out my various different branches and whatever it was that you had going on at the time. So there is a goal and there is a way that we can work up to it. And you can succeed with that, but people don't hear those stories necessarily. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, coming back to your wife, you know, people can look at that and say, well, hang on, it's not because people don't work hard, you know, because, yeah, there's a whole number of things that go into being sort of success. And but there are strategies, there are formulas, there are things that you can do. And one of those things is your mindset and your belief. And if you don't believe it's possible, well, you're not going to achieve it. You know, for me, it's all about having goals, having, you know, a real vision of where you want to get to, whether that's a fitness goal, whether that's a finance goal, you know, a business goal, a career goal. So it's important to have something to aim for. I was talking to a guy. It's one of the first questions I talk about when I'm interviewing new agents, and what are their goals. And he wasn't very specific about his income, what he wanted to earn. And I said, you need to know what you want to earn, because it's a bit like playing darts and not having a dartboard. You know, if you've got nothing to aim at, you know, you're not going to win the game. You know, coming back to your question, you know, there's obviously struggles in every industry, in every person. Some of the most successful businesses in the world, or people in the world, have had tough times. You've only got to look at Debenhams and what's his name? Is it the guy who runs Topshop? Philip
Green.
You know, people, he's doing fine. You know, I'm sure he's had some difficult times. Richard Branson's had some difficult times. Donald Trump's had difficult times. And some of those sort of rich and famous celebrities, Robin Williams, you know, who looked like on the outside had everything, you know, fame, fortune, success, adored and loved by millions, and ended up, you know, killing himself, really. So suffering with depression and, you know, so there's difficult, life is full of challenges for everyone. If anyone is sitting there thinking, oh, well, it's not fair because I've got no money, or I've got no time, or I've got this illness, or, you know, the world's against me, I can assure you that every single person goes through their own challenges, upsets. In life, we are going to have, we're all going to have someone close to us who's going to die. That's just a fact. That's going to happen. We're going to have financial challenges. I certainly have business challenges, career challenges, weight challenges, you know, relationship challenges, you know, whether that's with your kids, whether that's with your spouse, with your siblings, family. You know, life is full of challenges. And I think, you know, you've got to be able to sort of deal with those, and having the right mindset is important. And my goal is to try and do as best I can, and in any circumstances. And, you know, it's getting that balanced life as well. There's lots of people who are very successful in maybe their business life and their income, but suffer with their relationship with their husband or wife, or their kids, or their health, because they're focusing too much on working, and not focusing on maybe their health. So it's important to have a balance and look at all areas of your life, including your mental health, and you know, what other strategies you've got to deal with other areas of your life. So I'm going around in a bit of a circle here, going off.
No, it was, to be fair, I've realised listening to you that my original question was very sort of general and circuitous anyway. But to focus in then on mental health for a second, I thought for years that just due to the nature of our industry and the way that I suppose, you know, being an agent takes a leap of faith, because you're working very often on trust and goodwill that you will achieve that end goal for your vendor. Not necessarily so. No, not everybody gets paid up front. Not everybody gets paid at all. There are some circumstances where you will work tirelessly at a transaction for months. The solicitors will get paid, the surveyors will get paid, the banks will get their money. Everybody gets whatever they need. But if the deal falls through in the 11th hour, Mr. Agent may get a slap on the back and be told, we'll come back to you when we're ready to sell again. But sometimes you can walk away with nothing, and that can be demoralizing. And I suppose not knowing what that end result might look like and having to factor in cash flow for estate agency businesses it's a little nightmare. We've all got a pipeline, but that pipeline can fluctuate dramatically. At the moment, I think a lot of agents are sat on maybe bloated pipelines that may or may not make the finish line before the end of March. But it's interesting. I think that because we have that element to our job where there is such a high amount of risk, and because there was, and I think it's getting better, it's fair to say, but because there was a very paranoid headspace within our industry where you couldn't necessarily talk to competitors, you couldn't share resources and ideas with your fellow agents. Changing, I admit. But because of that, I think it impacted on our mental health, because we would come home at the end of, sometimes, let's face it, a horribly long day. I mean, you and I spoke about being in the office at 10 o'clock at night. We've both done it at some point. But when you get home and you're physically and emotionally drained and you've got all of this going on, we turn ourselves into little head cases. And I think that focus on mental health, it's getting better, but we've still got a hell of a long way to go in terms of nurturing the people in our industry to really sit up and talk about it.
Definitely, yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, this industry, isn't it? The highs and the lows.
Yeah.
And the unhappy buyer or seller, and they want someone to blame, and who they're going to blame. It's all the estate agent's fault. So you can be at the brunt of it. You end up being a counsellor dealing with other people's problems because they're going through a divorce, someone's died. It's a very emotional time for the clients, and you have to take that on. And then obviously there's the pressures of running the business and having the responsibility of not just your buyers and sellers, but your staff, your colleagues. So it is a high pressured roller coaster of emotions, and I think the key to it is to be able to talk about it. And I think we are being a little bit more open and being able to talk with competitors or other estate agents. It's great to talk to you and other people now who are in a similar sort of business or industry and talk about what we're going through, because literally is a problem shared is a problem halved. So talking about it is key. There are things we can do to help with that. For example, I'd always say to people, try and focus on the things you can control, and the things that you can't control, you just have to either let them, accept them and let them go. And I know that's easier said than done. But someone might say the weather's going to be raining tomorrow. I can't do anything about that, and we still don't know whether it will rain or snow tomorrow or what. But there's things you can't control, and you have to know when to sort of let go of those and look at what you can control. And as long as you take action, one of the ways I don't worry about anything, and I'm very fortunate. And it doesn't mean I don't care. And I know I'm very fortunate, but it is a skill that you can learn. And I'll just quickly share a couple of things that I do. So, for example, if something, most people worry about something. Well, let me say that 90% of things that people worry about don't happen. So that's something to bear in mind. Might worry about, you've got a barbecue tomorrow. What if it rains? That's just going to ruin everything for us. So I would say that if something that you're worried about, first of all, if you can't change it, you just need to accept it. Like, I can't change it if it's going to rain tomorrow. Or you can take some action to maybe deal with it. So you think, well, actually, let's get a gazebo in case it rains. Let me make sure we've got umbrellas in case it rains. Let me make sure there's a heater, or if it rains, we'll go indoors. So you can have, and that if it was cash flow, for example, if it was something about a business, what if all these don't complete and I'm not got enough money at the end of the month to pay the wages? Well, first of all, I wouldn't worry too much until it does happen, because it might be fine. And then think about what you can do to deal with that situation if it occurs. Can I speak to the bank? Will someone be prepared to wait a little bit longer for their wages? can I take some money from another source out of my investments or whatever? I don't know. Speak to my, but by focusing on something, the solution, it takes your mind off the problem, if that makes sense. But ultimately, it's talking to people, because lots of people have been through the same problems. And if anyone, for example, does want to talk to me, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen the highs, the lows, the good times, the bad times. Every problem that's come up, I've probably dealt with it in some way, and I've learned from it, and I'm happy to share that information. So, I'd like to say that if people have got things they want to discuss, call me, call someone else and whether that's business related or relationship or finance or something, talk to somebody, because someone else has probably been through it and can give you some advice and tips, or just give you someone to talk to, and actually just talking it through sometimes helps a lot as well.
Well, can we look at that for 2 minutes? Your origin story. Every superhero has an origin story, right? Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider. Batman tragically lost his parents in an alley. Superman, we know about Superman. He is Sean Newman, and he lives in Rugby. So tell us a little bit about where your story started out, because what people see today, they see perhaps if you don't mind me using this word, they see a flashy lifestyle. They may see a first-class travel. They may see you enjoying yourself here, there, and everywhere. And when you and I were speaking privately last night, you said to me, you know what, maybe when I post these things, I should say, well, actually, yes, you saw me exercising on the beach in Dubai yesterday for all of whatever it was, an hour, half an hour. But actually, I spent 8 hours yesterday working just like the rest of you. And part of me was, well, no, you don't justify, you don't have to justify what you do with your life to anybody. But there was a part of you that sort of thought, well, actually, I do work my bollocks off, and I have come from an extremely humble beginning. Talk to me about the humble beginning. How did you get from where you started to where you are today? Because I think that in itself is an interesting story.
Okay, I don't know how long we've got, but I'll try and give you the short version.
Yeah, please.
But, we were poor. Like we lived in a council house. I had my parents didn't have a good relationship. I had an older sister who was in a wheelchair with spina bifida, and I had a younger brother who was 5 years younger than me. So you can imagine at 10 years old, probably I've got an older sister in a wheelchair who I had to help push around. A brother who's 5 years old, so he probably got a bit more attention. And I had to be the father of the household. When I was probably about 12, my dad killed himself, so suicide. And so I had to sort of grow my independence there.
Dealing with a lot of pressure for such a young kid, really, when you think about it.
I know. When kids talk about bullying now and how bad it is, like bullying was part of life for me. Like that was just normal. Not just me, everyone in our school. We had such a rough school, comprehensive. People would fight. People would do things to the teachers. I can't even tell you. Windows would get smashed. But it was a school of hard knocks. I got to make sure I'd get on with everyone. Whoever it was, to make sure I was okay. But we'd get bullied. That was just part of life. And anyway, coming back to the parents, my mum had another boyfriend. We didn't get on. I ended up leaving home at probably 14 years old. To start with, I was staying on people's sofas, friends, and then social services got involved, and then I got into some, just stayed in a room. And we got bullied at school because we were, obviously when you're poor, for me, buying new clothes meant going to the church jumble sale and getting some trousers that were too short. And start of term, everyone's got their new blazers on, and I've got some second-hand one. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because that gave me the drive. I just thought I want to be rich. I thought our neighbours were rich because they had I don't know, a soda stream and a caravan and things that, you know, what was those, the video games, an Atari, you know,
Yeah.
you know, and I thought,
I think if you had a soda stream, you'd made it in those days. That was it. That was the dream.
so I was thinking, I want to be like the neighbours, you know, they're loaded, you know. So we were, you know, we were brought up on benefits, you know, so we didn't have much money, and so I just knew I didn't want to be poor. I wanted to be rich, and I didn't really understand. I thought rich was having a caravan and a soda stream, but you know, now it's a different world. But so I thought, right, and wasn't very bright at school. I wouldn't say I was, you know, particularly good, for various reasons. Anyway, so I left school and I went to work in a bank, you know, and on one of these youth opportunity training schemes. So yeah, I think you got paid £25. Was it a month? I don't know, show the age now, something ridiculous. Yeah. And then after a year, if you worked really hard, you'd get taken on full time. And I got taken. Yeah, we'll put you on a full time salary, £250 a month. You know, so well, hey. Anyway, someone told me that they were working for this business, Taylor's Estate Agents, part of Countrywide. You can earn 12 grand a year. So wow, my goodness me, that'd be amazing. And obviously I went for an interview there, and I didn't get the interview, and I tried a few other estate agents in the town I lived in, which was Daventry. No joy. So I thought I'll go to the next big town, Northampton. There's lots of estate agents there. Got the bus there, went to all these estate agency offices, and said, any jobs, and no jobs. And then I thought, well, look, there's a tailor's office there. I know they said no in Daventry, but you know, Northampton's bigger. I'll go there. So I went into any jobs, and they said, yeah, hang on a second, I'll get someone to talk to you. So I was waiting downstairs, and then I was waiting for someone to come down, and I said, oh, after 10 minutes, just this guy's coming down. What's his name? Because I just want to, you know, say his name. And they said, oh, his name's Bob Butler. I went, oh no, that's the guy who interviewed me in Daventry, told me no jobs, you know. So I was just about to get up and leave, and he's coming down the stairs, and I said, oh, hi, Mr. Butler. He said, oh, you're back again. Why? He said, oh, that's what I like. I like determination. No, someone who never gives up. Someone who's, and I thought, oh, this is working in my favour. And he said to me, have you got a driving licence? And I went, yeah. And I didn't have a driving licence. Have you got a car? Yeah, got a car. He goes, okay, well, we'll give you a job. How much are you earning at the moment? And I shouldn't have said this, but I said, oh, £250 a month. He said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll match that. And you'll get commission on everything you sell. And I think the commission at the time was like 15% of anything that you list and sell. So I was happy with that. So I was going to start work on whenever it was, the next Monday, and no car. So I turned up and said, oh, you never guess what's happened at the weekend, crashed the car. And so I had to have, you know, no car to start with. And I was literally running to my appointments. And they were saying to me, you know, have you got a car? And I was going, yeah. And then I was saying I'd got a car, and it's in the car park. And I would literally say, I'm just going to go and get something to eat, and say it was 12 o'clock, go to get lunch. And the appointment might be at 12:30. That gave me half an hour to run to that appointment. And I remember one time vividly that it was summer's day, and I'd got a waistcoat on and a jacket on, and I had to run to this appointment because I was running late, as we are as estate, right across town. I mean, miles. Got to the appointment, and the owners, the buyer hasn't turned up, and I'm waiting away for a while. So no mobile phones. Got the client, the vendor, to call the office. Any call? No. Okay, all right. I'll have to go back to the office. Got back to the office, and they said, "Oh, sure, I'm glad you're back. They've just called. The buyers have turned up. Can you go back?" So I had to run all the way back to this house. Get there, sweating. They're just coming out. They're finished. Anyway, I said, "Oh, what do you think of the house?" And it's all right. Any chance of a lift back to town? So, and I remember every Monday we used to have to get the photographs from new listings that have come on the market. Yeah. Because obviously you take the photographs, and then they'd go in and get developed, and they'd come back the next day, wouldn't they? Well, obviously for the advert,
they had like a sticky back on them, didn't they? Where you actually stuck them onto the paper, yeah.
So for the advert, we had to have them that day, 12 o'clock. So we had to have Polaroids. You know where that does?
Yeah.
So someone had to go out on a Monday to take a photograph of all the houses that come on the weekends. So they said, right, who's getting the photos today? And they said, how many is there? There was like, 6 or 7 or 8. And I'd go, no, I can't. And then one day, each week they're going, who's going to do the photographs? And I'd have my head down because I can't drive anywhere. I remember one day they said, who's going to get the photo? Come on, Sean, you haven't. And I said, how many is there? And they said, there's only one. And I went, I'll go. And I said, where is it? And they went, it's in this village. It was about 5 miles away. Like, I'm going, oh no. So I had to get a taxi. Cost me a tenner to get this one photograph. Anyway, that's it, and that's all my money. I hardly had any money, and I've got so many stories about not having any money and literally only £250. In fact, I'll bore you with some other stories because we're here all day. But I literally had no money, and to try to get my driving test, I had to ring up the people and say, when can I take a driving test? They said, it's 3 months. Oh no, I need to take one soon. Have you got any cancellations? And they said, well, not in Northampton or Daventry. I said, what about anywhere in the country? And they went, yeah, we've got one next week and it's in Derby. And I went, yeah, I'll take it. And I didn't have a car to get there, so I had to, and I didn't know where Derby was. I'd never been there before in my life. And cut a long story short, a friend took me there. I think it's a British School of Motoring who took the test in their car. So I just did that. I hit the curb. It was just a nightmare. And I was literally, I was crying at the end of this test. And the guy said, why are you crying? And I went, I really need this because I can feel myself welling up now because I was like, this is my job. If I don't pass this test, I have got no job. So anyway, he passed me. He just must have felt sorry for me. And
hero.
So I got, and then I had to go and get a car. Oh, I got through a few cars. I bought them like for 50 quid. One of them my mate writ off literally the first weekend. So I bought another car.
So you basically that was the beginning.
Yeah.
But today, Newman Estate Agents is a very different animal to what it was even say 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Where was the change? What happened? I mean, because there's a shift, isn't there, from getting your first job working for somebody else, living from paycheck to paycheck, not having any money, and then realizing that maybe you could do it yourself. Where was that shift?
So I was made manager after about a year of tailors, and I went to rugby, and I went, and when you're getting paid on your own results, and I was getting 15% of the fee, effectively commission. Yeah, they made me a manager, and then I'd take a cut of what the office did. So it might be, I don't know what it was, but maybe it's 2% or whatever the percentage. And I actually found my income went down because I was relying on all these other people that weren't doing as good a job as I was doing. Yeah. I remember thinking, I need to earn more money. So at the time, I said to the area manager, I'm going to leave and set up on my own unless you pay me more money. And I was happy to work, and just pay for my results and just pay me maybe 20% of everything I bring in or 30%. And it just wasn't something they did. And so someone approached me. They've got an estate agency business in Rugby, a very small office, 6 foot wide, with a desk. It was losing money, and he said, do you want to buy it as a franchise? And I said, yeah, I'd love to buy it. And bear in mind, he's losing money, whereas if he had it as a franchise, obviously you take a 10% of the turnover. So even if I wasn't making any money, he'd still make money, and obviously he would get rid of all of his liabilities from me onto me, and I'd take over the franchise. So I said, yeah, how much is this franchise? And it was a small business, and he said £6,000. And I said, okay, yeah, so I'm interested in principle, but I haven't got £6,000. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, pay me £500 a month for the next 12 months, and then you've got the business. And I went, okay, £500 a month, yeah, that sounds fair, but I haven't even got £500. I've got nothing. And he said, okay, well, don't pay me anything for the first 4 months, and then pay me £500 a month. So that gave me a chance to get houses on the market, get some money in, and pay him. And obviously I've got to pay him, a member of staff, the rent, the newspaper advertising, all of this sort of stuff. And there was a bit of a pipeline, so that helped. But literally, that's how I started, taking on this business, and he was taking 10% of everything I brought in. So I closed the doors at 6:30, and at night after a full day's work, and then I would go out delivering leaflets to 100 or 200 houses and knocking on doors of houses for sale with other estate agents. Just worked really, really hard, and then that business was doing very well. And then I realized that I was paying this guy, the 10%, and he was doing very little and nothing, in fact. And in the end, I decided to buy him out, and we came to some agreement on that. So that's how it started.
And today, how many branches have you got? How do you assess the size of your business today?
Yes, interesting, isn't it? I used to go to America a lot and talk to agents over there, estate agent owners, and they'd say, how many offices have you got? And I'd ask them, how many offices you got? They said, I've only got one office. And I'd say, and they'd say, how many have you got? And I'd say, I've got 3 offices. And they'd go, well done, you're doing really well. And I said, then they'd say, how many agents have you got? And I'd go, what do you mean by agents? It's obviously different. Where we in England, we have a manager and a negotiator and a lister or a valuer. And I said, well, people go out and put houses on the market, maybe 3 or 4. And they'd say, And I said, well, how many have you got? They'd have 127, So it's a completely different model in America, where they might only have one office, and from that office have 100 agents.
Yeah.
At the time, I was thinking, well, that's weird. And then probably looking at me going, 3 or 4 agents? That's weird. So at the moment now, we've got Fine & Country, which is like a franchised high-end brand at Newman's, which is more of a traditional all price brackets sort of. We've probably got around 100 self-employed partner agents and estate agency staff and mortgage advisors at the moment in the business, between those sort of 2 or 3 brands.
And what interests me particularly is when I read the industry press, and I always read the comments, because I'm a sucker for that bitter cynicism down there. I like to dip into it every now and again, get some inspiration. But when I do, if they're bitching about your lifestyle, that's one thing. But sometimes what they're bitching about is what threatens them the most. And what I find threatens traditional estate agency models these days is the self-employed model. And I had a conversation with one agent a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to mention him by name, but he said, Sean Newman, I like the guy, but I just can't understand why he's constantly pushing this self-employed model. It really winds me up. I said, why does it really wind you up? He goes, well, because, it's sort of saying to, like, if you've got a talented negotiator, it's sort of saying, don't work for him, and build his business up. Go and build your own. And I said, but isn't that the natural progression that everybody would want? That eventually they're going to stop becoming a wage slave, that they're going to be sort of masters of their own destiny. And we had this whole discussion about, and I think that most business owners, they don't like to give away too much information. Estate agency businesses, they like to have these KPI targets in there. And one of the things you have to do as part of that is to disclose to your staff what you're earning, because that's what you're banking in fees at the end of the day. And you need to tell your managers, well, look, this is what we're banking this week. Now you're worried that they will see what you're banking and go, oh, that's actually very good. I'm only getting this much, but he's getting that much. Now they don't see the overheads and the costs and the stress and the banks and the loans and everything else that goes in behind it. But that's the threat to the industry. That's why people find this concept so threatening, because you're effectively encouraging people to get up and go and do it themselves. Now, I actually think it's not for everybody. You either got the mindset to be able to make that leap from employee to self-motivated, a business owner in their own right almost. And I don't think it's for everybody. So I don't think we're going to see this massive revolution where in 5 years' time, all the industry will be a Newman's or a Keller Williams type model. It's more popular than it ever was, but I think you represent a threat, and I think that is why sometimes people come down hard on that model.
Yeah, so the reason I'm doing this model is because I believe that, well, my purpose, if you like, or my driving force is I want to raise the standards in estate agency in the UK. I'm embarrassed that the standards are so low, so poor, and it's not good. You say you're an estate agent and people go, and sometimes that reputation is rightly given because the standards, if you're recruiting staff on, and I don't want to name a company, but I saw an advert recently, they're recruiting people on £15,000 a year basics. Well, you're not going to get great people at that sort of price bracket, of remuneration. And if I look at America, where estate agents are high achievers, high earners, professional, respected, charge great fees, it's just the complete opposite to the UK, where they're not respected, they're not getting high fees, they're not high earners, they're not necessarily seen as successful high achievers. They're seen as, I don't know, second-hand car salesman, really, and greedy or whatever. But the reality is the standards in America or Australia are a lot higher, and most of the agents work on the basis that they're running their own business and they're taking more ownership and responsibility and giving more time to a client because they're getting a bigger fee from that one client. And whereas in the UK, some of the agents that are employed contracts with low commission have got to deal with 20 new listings in a month. So to raise the standards in the States, in the UK, one of the ways is to pay agents way more and per transaction. So they've got more time to deal with that one client rather than have to deal with 20. And I believe that it's better for the agent, it's better for the client, and it's better for the business. And I understand why some traditional estate agency business might see this as a threat, and they should, because if you've got a really good lister and your business is reliant on him going out winning business for your, getting houses on the market, he is going to be thinking, do you know what? I could do this on my own and get 50% of the commission, or 60 or 70%, whatever the model is. And so it's definitely a threat. But the other option for the estate agency business owner is to say, well, maybe I should have this model. Do I need an office? Do I need all these overheads? You've got other companies setting up today where they're recruiting agents all over the UK. There is no offices. There's one Rightmove account, and they haven't got to worry about, admin staff, sales chasing staff, buying staff computers or buying staff cars or buying staff anything.
Yeah.
So it's a different model, and it is the future. It's not for everybody. There's lots of people that just want to be an employee. 95% of the population are employees. They like the guarantee, the income. But I think the future of estate agency, and it's maybe there's a lot of estate agents now that don't want to go self-employed, but there's a lot of people now that are coming into the industry that are good at social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. They're influence and they're good at marketing. And there's two important skills when it comes to estate agency: marketing, making the house look the best it possibly can to achieve the best price, massive exposure, video, social media. And then this other important skill for an estate agent is negotiation skills, negotiating obviously your fee, but more importantly, negotiating the best price for the vendor. And too many estate agents today are just interested in getting a deal together, put the house on the market, stick it on Rightmove, hope it sells, sell, ring the vendor, drop the price. You should drop, or there's a low offer, but I think you should take it. They just don't care. I know that's a sweeping statement, and a generalization, and sometimes,
but more often than not, that tends to be the truth. Obviously, the focus of these shows a little bit is Proptech, and what I thought was that I would break our industry down in a sort of an A to Z sort of manner, and obviously S can now be for self-employed model, because obviously I think that there is something to it, and I like the American model. I haven't seen much of it but the only glimpse into it was, did you ever watch a film called I Love You Man? I think it's called that.
Oh, right.
You need to see that film, but he's a real estate agent, and they sit within this office in different sort of pens, and they will all cover similar areas, and they'll work under one umbrella, but they will. It's all about them, their personality on the billboards. It's their photo. And there's obviously Selling Sunset, which is a more modern take on these things. I can't talk to Sean Newman without asking him about his kids, because I think that's important as well. I know this isn't about them, but I want to talk to you about them. I think it would be fair to say that both Tyler and Summer have been extremely successful in their own rights. And again, people, industry, whoever, they have a certain view of these things. And I remember when Tyler put that picture of his Lamborghini up and said, look, this is what I've achieved. A lot of people were very cynical about it. A lot of people said, oh, that's just daddy's money. I think it's fair to say when it comes to Summer, she's inherited her mother's good looks. Okay. Don't take that as an offense, Sean. It's clear. Caroline's got the edge on you. Okay. And so I'm basically, Summer is as much influencer as she is agent or anything else, developer that she is. And she's leveraging something that I don't think we would consider as prop tech. But I had a conversation with Oliver James the other night, the estate agent and a good friend of mine. And he said, we were talking about the Summer's coverage in the Daily Mail and her TikTok video that sort of went a little bit viral, and he said, "Is TikTok prop tech?" And I said, "Well, it is now, isn't it? It's another avenue that you can use to market." But I think the question that was being asked was, do agents need to be influencers? Should we be working together with it? I think you asked the question, actually. Should we be working with influencers? Should we turn ourselves into influencers? Where is that balance and how do we strike it? Your kids have taken a completely different step to you. They're not in traditional agency. I've spoken to you about this privately, and you swear on everything that's dear to you that you are not funding them and that they are completely self-resourced, if you like. A little bit on that, please.
It's a good point about the TikTok and social media. I mean, just so everyone knows that my daughter did a guy was selling his house. It's not on the market with an estate agent. It's not on Rightmove. And he asked my daughter to do a YouTube and a TikTok video. She did it. Within 24 hours, it had 10 million views on TikTok. It's probably now on 15 million views, which is, if you Google what's the most watched TV program in the UK, it might be The X Factor at 12 million viewers.
Yeah.
And people say, well, did that sell it? It was only on TikTok and YouTube. This guy had 300 messages, lots of viewings. He had I won't say who it was. Sorry, I shouldn't really say who, but famous celebrities and footballers contact him. He had 2 offers like the next day over the asking price. I think he's had 4 offers in total. The point is he sold it without an estate agent, without Rightmove, because a young girl and her boyfriend with a camera has put it on social media. So that is a threat to estate agents. And in the future, people might even use an influencer to sell their house, or they're going to decide on their estate agent based on their social media marketing strategy, or their followers on various channels. But you've got to be an expert in social media. You can't just put it on Rightmove and Zoopla Rightmove, Zoopla on the market. It's got to be on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever. But coming back to my daughter, she doesn't want to be an estate agent. She did work in the business for a little while, but she and my son, they don't want to be employees working 9 to 5 for someone else. They want to be, 1, entrepreneurial, and 2, be able to work from anywhere. And that's what I've encouraged them to do, because getting trapped, and we've talked about getting trapped, once you've got a job and you've got a mortgage and you've got a kids, it's hard to get out of that trap. And we're conditioned in this world to go to school, to go to university, get a job. And kids today have got a massive opportunity, because when we started in business, I had to have an office and a lease and staff and all this costs. Whereas if you want to start a business today, you don't need anything. You don't need offices, you don't need staff. And that's the great thing for estate agents that are thinking about, going on their own, they could literally set up from their home and be in business, working for themselves, or join someone, an umbrella brand. But yeah, I've said to the kids, they didn't go to university, didn't want to go to university. They want to get into the world. And the key thing for them was about learning. They have spent a lot of money taking courses, whether and looking at YouTube and reading books. And they're no cleverer than anyone else. They're no better than anyone else, but they have invested a lot of time learning all these skills. And the great thing is, we talked the other day that you can find out anything now on YouTube.
Anything.
And it's just a great university. And there's, my son said it was a waste of time going to do a business course at sixth form when the guy had never been in business, never even had a job. The teacher had gone from university into a teacher, and he admitted he wasn't off very, very well off financially. And, so it's not the right person to teach entrepreneurial skills. So, yeah, I mean, you tell me what you want to know about them, but yeah, I haven't.
I guess what interests me is that, they are they're held up as being self-made, and yeah, a lot of people will say no, there's no chance they can achieve that kind of success in such a short period of time. It's got to be due to their background. But let's assuming that we take you at your word that that they have completely started themselves. There must have been something in their upbringing. You came from a poor upbringing. Your parents didn't get on. Your dad tragically committed suicide. You had family members that were unwell. You were at some point part carer. You were dragging up your younger brother. You're in care. You're out there on your own at the age of 14. You're a baby at that stage, right? You're running to your first appointments. Your life has been driven by the fact that you've had nothing. Now your kids have had a different upbringing. They've had good schooling, great schooling. Yeah, they've had I'm presuming it looks on Instagram anyway, a very nice, secure, stable background with very balanced parents who are all both pulling in the same direction in terms of what you guys want to achieve. They've had a better start in life, and yet they're still driven to achieve. So I guess how much of that is you? Because sometimes to set your kids up in business, you don't need to write them a check, but you can convey some of that kind of mindset to them.
They've enjoyed some of the nice things in life, whether that's flying first class, we'd go to the Geneva Motor Show and sit in a Lamborghini. And for me, buying a brand new car, when I was younger, 19, having a car was a dream. Having a brand new car would be amazing. But Tyler's goal was a Lamborghini, and he had that as a goal from an early age. And I think I said to you that on his Twitter account, it said, in 2015, he sent out a tweet and said, my next tweet will be a picture of my Lamborghini. So he devoted, he literally, and I think his Facebook profile said, I'm coming off Facebook because I'm devoting my time to my goals. So all they had were bigger goals. For me to have a business would be like a goal. And I thought, I've got my own business. I've made it. Like, they're not thinking, they're thinking way bigger. Like, they look at this house and go, we want a house. My daughter said, I want a house on the beach in Australia. Tyler lives in London. He lives opposite the Houses of Parliament on the Thames in an apartment. They've got bigger dreams, bigger goals. And I guess the only thing I would have said that I've helped them with is to dream big, have big goals, and you can have anything you want in life. And they've been surrounded by positive people, learning, reading books, from successful people, and believing what is possible. And I think a lot of people want to do better than their parents. I did an Ironman, and my son said, right, I want to do an Ironman, and I want to beat your time. So I did the Ironman when he was probably 9 years old. So he was at the finish line seeing me go across. 10 years later, he wanted to do it when he's 18, but 10 years later he was 19, and we did an Ironman together. The same Ironman, it was in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
When he saw me do that at age 9, then he wanted to do it. And we did it together, and actually he did beat my time from when I did it 10 years earlier, but I'd also trained harder as well, so I did beat him. But but he motivated me. I might inspire him in some ways, but he inspires me. I mean, he's got a great body, and that's what inspired me to think, right, I need to, make my body a bit better. But these kids are, kids don't do what parents say, they do what parents do. They watch and they learn from what you do. So there's no point saying to your kids, don't drink or don't smoke or don't drive fast or don't swear. Like if you're drinking and smoking and driving faster and you're shouting, like they're going to do what you do. So I've always tried to be a good role model, a great example, sets high standards for myself, because I want them to see that and do that. And I guess, sometimes it's a work ethic, but they definitely work harder than me. They're more determined and they've got bigger goals, and they'll be way more successful than I ever was. But they've had a good foundation, but not financial. And I made it very clear at an early age to them, you've got to make your own money. The worst thing you could do as a parent, I think, is give your kids money, whether that's in a will, after you've gone, which would be a shame as well. But, part of the fun is the journey, is doing it and doing it yourself, having it handed down to you, and people saying, oh, yeah, it's all right for you. Someone, your dad bought you a house or bought you a car or bought you, set you up in business. I've done nothing, but because I don't want to take that opportunity and away from them to be able to do their own thing and have that, satisfaction and reward. So yeah, I'm really pleased to see what they're doing, and they I'm very proud, obviously, but they inspire me and I learn from them, so much.
Fantastic. Right, last two questions, because we've got like 2 minutes of your time left. So my two questions are as follows. One is Proptech related. What tools do you think we have today that really stand out to you? What Proptech products would you encourage your agents to use as a kind of must-have?
Yeah,
that's my one question. I have another one for you in a second.
Yeah, that's a good question. I should have given this a bit more thought. For me, I mean, we are just so fortunate that the part of the problem is there is so much choice. I'm just looking at CRM at the moment, and I've looked at Street and Loop, and I've just rang Rex. Yeah. There's so many. I do like Homesearch. And I've got a lot of time for them and what they're doing and how they change. So, and that's something we use. But there's also Sprift that does something similar, and I haven't seen that recently. And someone said, "Oh yeah, that's good now." So there is so much, and part of the problem in this industry for us is keeping up with it all. Like you could spend your whole life getting demos of everything.
And that's why you need to give Kerfuffle a call. Someone will sit down, do an MOT on your business, and they'll say, look, this is what you should be focused. This is what you're missing out on. Yeah. These are classed as being essentials. And they have actually, probably the way they look at it is, if you're starting out, you need these 5 products. If you've already established and you've done that, maybe you're then time to move on to that. So give Kerfuffle a call. That's the plug for you, Simon. Yeah. Send me a check, yeah? Check, David Mint. And the other thing I was going to ask you, though, is you've given me very generously an hour of your time. And I've got to say that any time I've ever approached you for anything, you've always said yes. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Who would you like to spend an hour with, either within the industry or just as a whole, if you could?
God, that's another good question. Yeah. I was telling you, I was watching this program, The Secret Billionaire, and now Grant Cardone's on it. And Grant Cardone is a great guy from a mindset point of view. He's written a book, The 10X. And if you want motivation and inspiration and a real belief in anything's possible, then he'd be a great person to spend an hour with. So probably him. There's probably a list of 100 others I could sort of.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tag him in the post. I can't promise he's going to pick up the phone, but if he does, you just let me know. Sean, I just want to thank you again. We could talk for hours, and maybe we will talk again, because I think there's more to it. But I just wanted to kind of get to know the Sean Newman behind the Instagram photos. And I feel that we've cracked that a little bit today. And I hope that anybody watching this understands that there's more that goes into it than just what you see on that very superficial lens sometimes. Because let's face it, we're not going to take pictures of ourselves sat there crying with our heads in our hands when things are going wrong. But it's nice to take pictures when we're kind of we've achieved the goal that we wanted to achieve. So I guess that's life. We're out there for the likes, we're out there for the love, we're out there for, and we portray the best versions of ourselves, but it's not all like that. And I just wanted to try and sort of scrape beneath that surface. So thank you for sharing with us.
No, you're very welcome. I hope this has helped or inspired or encouraged people, because that ultimately that's my purpose in life, is to help others, to give and to support people. And that's probably the most rewarding and satisfying thing you can do in life. And when you get that, when you know that, it really it is life-changing for you as a person, being able to give, where it doesn't have to be money, but it could be time, or it could be just advice, or just support when someone needs it. So, I enjoy talking to you, and anyone else, if there's anyone I can help, then do get in touch.
Thanks, Sean. Take care and have a good week, yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Good to talk to you. Take care.
Take care.